Good morning, everybody. Hello. Good morning.
Hey everyone.
How are we? Good to see you all coming into the chat already. That's good to see. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Adam. Hey, Kim. And Andrea. Hello, hello. Be sure to share out on your socials, guys. Let me just turn my volume right down. I thought I'd already done that. And yeah, because this one's going to be pretty cool, pretty exciting.
Good one.
I've been dying to have a good chat with Amanda. So yeah, I can't wait for you all to meet her. Hi, Tyrell.
Hey Tyrell. Hello everyone else. Sorry.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so today, this week, doing a bonus episode. So don't normally do a Friday episode, but I had to because Amanda Woomer, who is the author of The Feminine Macabre, and I were having a chat, and she was available this week. So I said to Jane, let's do it. Let's just go with it and get her on. So Amanda is a writer, an anthropologist, and she's also a former international English teacher. So she's a woman of many, many talents. Hi, Joey. Good to see you.
Hi,
she was born and raised in Buffalo, New York, and is an absolute horror fanatic. So loves the horror. She's the creator of SpookEats and specializes in paranormal research. So, and like I said, she's the author of The Feminine Macabre. And she's currently promoting volume 2. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the wonderful and beautiful Amanda. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
It's quite the introduction.
It was.
Oh my God, you've got like so much. My goodness, like so much. Like there was just stuff everywhere. I'm just like, wow, you're a busy lady.
Oh, absolutely.
So I guess my first question would be like, what led you from doing your English teaching into the paranormal? Like, how did you enter the world of paranormal?
So this is actually a great question. Nobody's ever asked me this.
Oh.
So I was always kind of interested in the paranormal. I think people who kind of have an affinity for the spooky stuff always have kind of a similar story where they experienced something as a small child and then kind of started reading books or watching movies or eventually the paranormal reality TV shows. And that's exactly what happened with me as well. International English teaching or teaching, this is terrible English on my part. Teaching English internationally was just something I decided to do after college. I went to school for anthropology, focusing on more cultural anthropology. So I loved traveling. I loved getting to know different cultures and different languages. So I actually moved to China for 2 years.
Wow.
Yes, that's where I met Mr. SpookEats. He's not Chinese, though. Everyone knows. I was like, oh, you married a Chinese man. I'm like, no, he's from Minnesota. He's from America.
My God. Oh, wow.
What are the odds? I went to China to find a
another American.
But I taught English in China, Russia, and Mongolia off and on for about 3 or 4 years. And it was actually the death of my little brother that brought me home.
Sorry.
Thank you. I always warn people oh, it's going to be a downer very briefly in the beginning. So my younger brother, Jed, he passed away after a battle with pediatric cancer in 2015. And
that's terrible.
that was kind of the turning point for me. I had been very curious about the paranormal and very, an innocent curiosity. I would read books and go on investigations, but it was at that point where I decided that I really needed to research this and study it. So I'm newer to the scene of really actively investigating and very passionately researching. But that's what brought me back to the States. That's what brought me home, so to speak. And that's what really kind of got me interested, really more so into the paranormal. And that was kind of the starting point for SpookEats, even focusing on that haunted hospitality end of things. Because I was finding that in my research that a lot of places that you want to try to get to, at least in the States, it's very expensive. Very expensive.
Very, very expensive.
It's a universal problem, clearly. So that was what I kind of started noticing, was that the paranormal seems to be reserved for people who were wealthy or on really established paranormal teams or on television. And I realized, like, I had all of these questions about the afterlife. So I'm not the only person that's lost a loved one and then questioned what came next. So there needs to be places that people can go to feel a connection to the paranormal. And that's why I turned to haunted hospitality, the haunted restaurants, bars, hotels. These places are already open to the general public. They want you to come visit them. And for the price of, a pint of beer and an appetizer, you could potentially have an incredible paranormal experience in a location that has just as much history and just as many ghost stories as those infamous places that we already know about. But a lot of times, my argument is always, these places, they have heat, they have electricity, they have plumbing. So they're much more.
They have bathrooms.
Much more enjoyable to visit.
No, I noticed that with your your SpookEats blog website. You've got all the different places and all around the world. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, and I'm hoping now that COVID, it keeps coming and going, but the last year and a half now, I haven't been able to travel anywhere to go to these haunted locations. So it's kind of put a damper on things, but that's what led to the Feminine Macabre. So it's a blessing in disguise, I guess.
So you've written quite a lot of different books, including the Feminine Macabre, but you've also done a whole heap of adult books and children's books and all that kind of stuff. You've got your hand in it all. Can you tell us a bit about those?
Sure. So my very first book is called The Haunted Atlas of Western New York. And when I was starting out writing, I had all these visions of grandeur in my mind. I could talk about New Orleans or, Salem. I had all these great ideas, but I realized I'm poor and I couldn't travel to these places. So I decided to just write about what I know. And I'm very interested in my region's local folklore and history. So I just thought, write what you know. I am somewhat knowledgeable on the subject. And now that I've done all this research, I love it even more. So that was my first foray into writing a book. And it's basically, I describe it as a travel guide. It's got 130 locations. And there's walking tours, driving tours, coordinates. So people can, in my mind, get off of the couch and stop watching the paranormal reality shows and instead go out on their own haunted adventures to kind of come to their own conclusions about whether a location is haunted or not. So that was my first book. My second book I wrote while I was pregnant with baby SpookEats, and it was America's Haunted Breweries, Distilleries, and Wineries. Clearly, I was a glutton for punishment. The whole time I was thinking, I'm really thirsty. I could go for a whiskey right now. So that one is much more, it's a much broader topic, whereas the Haunted Atlas was very, very localized. This one was a bit broader, so people all around the States could read it and hopefully find a place nearby. The third book I wrote was called The Ghosts of the Ghostlight Theater, and this is very, very localized. It's a local theater in my hometown that I've been a member at for years and years, and during COVID, they could not perform and bring in any money. So I decided to compile a collection of people's firsthand ghost stories, and we put it together for a fundraiser, and 100% of the proceeds go right back to the theater. I don't take any of the money. And it's been
amazing.
We've raised several $1,000s through these sales, which is wonderful. And it's a beautiful little time capsule. It includes photos of cast and crew members over the years. So that was a lot of fun. And then I have 2 books in the Creepy Books for Creepy Kids series. The first is Krampus' great big book of Yuletide monsters. So it talks about 13 creepy Christmas monsters. Obviously, Krampus, he narrates it for you, of course.
It's my favorite.
Yes, of course. He's my favorite too. And then the other one is the Cryptid ABC book. So it goes from A to Z and it goes through all the different cryptids. So, M is for Mothman, Y is for Yeti, and so on and so forth. So those are all of my books outside of the Feminine Macabre.
That's awesome. So Amanda, with your children's books, what sort of firstly inspired you to sort of head into that children's genre? Because it can be rather taboo for some parents, like introducing the spooky to their younger children, to the younger generation. Some parents out there are totally for it, and they're into it themselves, and they want it, to run in the kind of family, and their kids sort of, have an interest, so they're like, hell yeah, let's run with it. But I'll use the example of, say, the Harry Potter books. About a decade or so ago, schools and libraries were pulling those books from their shelves because they were saying it's introducing the world of witchcraft to children, even though those books are very much a fiction genre. So, first of all, what inspired you to sort of delve into that kind of genre, firstly? And have you found any sort of, kickback as far as it being a taboo subject matter for you?
So personally, I had 2 kind of inspirations for it. The first was having my own child. I was pregnant while I was working on these, and I thought, I would love for him to grow up at least knowing of, especially the Krampus stories. I want him to know about the darker side of the holidays. It's supposed to be a creepy time. So that was one inspiration for me. The other inspiration was I had my first paranormal encounter when I was 7 years old, and I went to the library trying to find books on the subject, and there really wasn't anything for a 7-year-old. Yes.
It
was a little above my reading level.
Yeah. I think I was in that same. Had experiences very young. Went looking for information. Yep. There either wasn't a lot, or same. It was way beyond my knowledge level at the time.
So that was kind of, I thought, these are great little books to kind of introduce kids into this spooky world, and it's very much, I don't want to say dumbed down because it's not dumbed down, but it's watered down a little bit. For example, in the Cryptid ABC book, W was for Wendigo, and Wendigos are technically cannibals. Did I write about that in there? No.
Oh God, could you imagine?
They can discover that much later in life.
Exactly.
That's fine.
I'm leaving something to the imagination. Let them figure things out themselves. But so far, no one has at least complained to my face about them. But they're a little spooky. But I mean, it's called the Creepy Books for Creepy Kids, so I would hope that right there, that's warning enough.
Exactly.
Fingers crossed. So far, so good.
Well, that's good. I'm glad.
And what's the age range for your 2 children's books, Amanda?
So the ABC book is definitely on the younger side. My goddaughter, it's her favorite book. She has to have it read to her every night before bed, and she's 3. So I would say, 3 to probably 5 or 6. Krampus' great big book of Yuletide monsters. It's a bit more in depth. It's a bit longer. So I would say probably 5 and up. But they're picture books. So you could read them in a single sitting. But definitely if an adult is like, Krampus book, and they'll get it, they might be disappointed. It is a children's book.
I know. I so want to get it. I grew up with the family tradition of Krampus. So anything Krampus, I'm on it. So.
Oh, no. So are there any children's books in the works at the moment, or anything coming up?
Not children's books at the moment. Eventually I would like to do a children's guide to ghost hunting, just kind of like an introduction.
That would be good.
for like a little bit
Amazing.
older, maybe like 10 and up. But that's way down the road. I have several other projects that were on hold because of volume 2 of the Feminine Macabre. So now once that's out in a few weeks, then I can kind of focus more on those once again, and get those out of my head because they've been kind of knocking at the door begging to be written.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And what inspired you to write the Feminine Macabre? Like, what led you down that path?
It's a very winding path, but basically I was doing a radio show over on Paranormal Buzz Radio over a year ago now. So this has been in the works for a long time. But we were doing a show about women in the paranormal, historically speaking. So we were talking about women like Catherine Crowe, Eleanor Sidgwick, a little bit of Lorraine Warren. And aside from Lorraine Warren, nobody knew who we were talking about. And I think the only reason why anyone knew of Lorraine Warren was because of the Conjuring movies. I'm not mad about that. I'm a horror nerd, like you said, so I'm fine with that. But it really got me thinking, like, why is it that if you ask anyone who's your favorite paranormal investigator, or can you name some paranormal investigators, 9 times out of 10, they will name a man. They won't name a woman. And if you ask them, can you name a female paranormal investigator? They'll probably say Lorraine Warren, or, you know, several of the ladies that are on TV now. So it really got me thinking, why is this that, you know, women have been so ingrained in the paranormal from the beginning? You know, Catherine Crowe back in the mid 1800s, she was doing paranormal investigations before literally anyone else. She was the very first paranormal investigator back in the 1850s. But nobody knows about her because she's a woman. You know, Eleanor Sidgwick, she was a founding member of the Society for Cyclical Research, but she's always overshadowed by her husband. Same thing with Lorraine Warren. It's always, you know, Ed and Lorraine. It's always the two of them.
Yes.
And so it really, it just, this was just mulling through my mind. And then I started thinking of the modern day women that we have, and especially reality TV, where you have all of these all male teams on television, and there's not a single all female television show.
Yes.
And if there is a woman, if we are so lucky as to have a woman on a television show, she's always,
know what you're going to say.
She's always countered with a man. It's never just a leading woman. There's always a man somewhere. And so again, it just really got me thinking, why is this? Women have been a part of this since the beginning. You know, we're working just as hard with just as much integrity. Why? So that's kind of why I started the Feminine Macabre. I wanted to create a place where women could come together and share their research, share their findings, their theories, whether it's hauntings or witchcraft and tarot or folklore, dark history, cemetery art, or death culture in general, cryptids. You know, I basically say anything that your mom tells you not to talk about at the dinner table when your grandparents go over. That's what I want. I want that. So back at the beginning of the new year, I just kind of sent out a submissions call just to see if anyone felt the same way, or maybe it's all in my head. Am I being, you know, bitter? Do I have a chip on my shoulder? And I found that that wasn't the case, is that many women felt exactly the same way. So when we had volume 1, we had over 100 submissions that we had to whittle down to just 30 individuals. And it's been really eye-opening to see that people have really accepted the idea of the Feminine Macabre. I wasn't sure if people would say, you know, you're a man hater or you're sexist, you know, why is it male versus female? And that's not the point. I always say, like, we're not trying to erase men from the narrative. They're here. We know they're here. You know, mainstream paranormal media has made it very clear that, you know, guys are involved in the paranormal. But if you ever go to events, if you host an event or you attend an event, 9 times out of 10, it's women that are surrounding you, and the guys that are there were clearly dragged there against their will by their wives or their girlfriends. That's just from my experience, what I've experienced. So, you know, it's been very refreshing that not many people have felt that way. And if anyone is feeling that I'm making it male versus female, again, we're not trying to erase men from the narrative. I'm simply trying to create a stage where these women can come and again, share their stories, share their experiences. The Feminine Macabre does not give a voice to women. The women already have their voices. It's simply a megaphone for people to be able to hear them a little bit louder. So my hope is that people become aware of these women, because the work that they're doing is it's absolutely fascinating. And it gives, even if it's just going on investigations, the way many women investigate is very different from how men investigate. So let's learn from each other. Let's learn and see. A lot of people repeat what they see on TV, which sometimes might not be the best way to investigate a location. So let's try to learn from one another. And I think
everything's a demon.
That's a whole other conversation for a whole other day.
No, it is.
But see, even on YouTube, Jane and I started, within a few months of each other last year. And, there's not a huge amount of, lead women investigators, with their own channels on YouTube either. A lot of it is male dominated still, or, like you were saying, it's, there might be a woman on the team, but it's usually because they're the medium, or, they're just backing up the man and that kind of stuff. So, we have, young people. Jane's had, some, younger girls following her, which is awesome. And it's good, that these girls are, kind of look up to us in a way that they're like, well, you can do it, which means that I can do it.
Yep.
And, and that's, what we're trying to do too. And, set that example, yes, females can, conduct a paranormal investigation. We don't need a male to be there. And two, I think, Jane would agree that, like you were saying, we do bring a different element to an investigation because we do have a different approach to it. And, we bring that empathy, that compassion, and, it's not just who's here? It's not barking type orders, and I'm not saying that.
Oh, we can be if need be, but it's just much more sensitive sometimes approach.
And look, there is, a lot of male investigators who have that more gentle approach as well. But just, having, writing and having, all these women, telling their stories, speaking about their experiences and their theories and take on what they think of the paranormal is just amazing. So, yeah. And we had a good chance to chat to one of your co-authors last week, Courtney, from the Green Guide.
Because she's actually in my hometown, so we are very, very close to each other.
Oh, that's awesome! Oh my goodness, yeah, holy cow! She has got lots and lots of stories.
Oh, she's amazing.
Oh my goodness! I was just stop telling me all these awesome places because I want to go. I want to come there right now. You better have a bed made up because I'm coming there. I don't care if I sleep on the couch. I want to come. So you're in the middle of promoting and releasing volume 2 at the moment.
Yes, I am. I actually have a proof copy of it here. So this is with all of my typos that I caught. So this is volume 2, a tentative cover. The back is not done yet. But
that's awesome.
We actually expanded it this time around to include artists. Very specifically, we had a woman that she is practicing kind of growing her mediumship skills, and she uses artwork in her mediumship. And it's a beautiful series of old Victorian era photos that she has. So we opened it up to artists, and she was the only one that submitted, but it's absolutely stunning. I actually bought one of her pieces because it just took my breath away. And we also opened it to individuals that identify as non-binary. So volume 1 was just women, just people who identified as female. But then I was like, why stop at just women, quote unquote, because this whole thing, again, it's not male versus female. It's about giving a voice to marginalized groups. And if women are underrepresented in the paranormal, non-binary people are immensely underrepresented in the paranormal. So I'm really excited to be able to have a whole section dedicated to non-binary researchers and investigators. And I always say the paranormal is constantly changing and evolving and growing. So the Feminine Macabre should be doing the exact same thing and constantly changing and growing.
Yeah, absolutely. So when is it being released? Do we have an estimate?
My goal is before the end of August. We sent away for hopefully the very, very final proof copy, just to make sure everything lines up. I'm one of those anal people that if my books are in a series and like the script on the binding doesn't line up,
oh my God, that would be me.
It drives me insane. So our poor cover artist, I wrote her yesterday. I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, the cover is absolutely beautiful. However, the writing on the spine does not line up. And she goes, all right, let's try this. So we just sent away for it. So I'm hoping in the next few days to have a tentative date. My goal is before the end of August. Might be early September. We'll see. Fingers crossed. End of August. Hopefully. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. So like where do you like like promote for submissions and things like that? Like do SpookEats or?
Yes. So we actually just recently started a separate Instagram account for the Feminine Macabre. So if anyone wants to follow that, just go to Instagram and search for the Feminine Macabre. We threw a couple periods in there to make it all not one word. But also SpookEats.com/Feminine Macabre. That is where you can find all the submission guidelines. Right now, submissions aren't open. We're not going to do another one until next year. So probably after the new year, we'll open submissions up. And I think what I'm going to start doing, because we want to do this twice a year, I think I'm going to line them up with the equinoxes now. It was one of my friends' ideas. I like that. I was like, I don't know, like cool, spring and fall. So, and he was like, why not just do the equinoxes? I was like, oh, you're brilliant.
Yep, that's a very cool idea. Loving that.
So, but feel free to head right over to SpookEats.com/Feminine Macabre. That is where you can at least read through the guidelines, start thinking about it. And I really want to encourage anyone who's watching this, if you identify as female or non-binary and you are interested in the paranormal, whether it's ghost stories or folklore, witchcraft, tarot, hoodoo, voodoo, anything that your mom tells you not to talk about at dinner, all that stuff, I want it. So definitely consider submitting something. A lot of these people that are included in the Feminine Macabre, this is their first time ever being published. So it's not the sort of thing that you have to have a resume or a background in writing. Some people have been published many times. Some people you might recognize from social media or TV. Some people have blogs, but other people, this is their first time ever getting anything published. So don't let that hold you back. I really want to encourage people to submit if you guys have something that's kind of like eating away at you that you want to research, or a theory or an experience that you had that you want to try and share with other people. My hope is that people are able to read the Feminine Macabre and be entertained, but also learn something new. Think of something in a different way. And so far, that has been kind of the reaction we've gotten from people. So if you have something to contribute, definitely head to SpookEats.com. All the information's on there for you. Also, feel free to follow the Feminine Macabre over on Instagram. We'll have updates whenever things get released, whenever submissions open up. And again, we want to do this twice a year. So 2021 submissions are over and done with, but 2022 is almost here. It's just around the corner.
I know.
Yes, flying.
I will have to start thinking about my submission because, like, I've got a story for you from when I was 15 that was rather traumatic, but is what, you know, spurred me into the world of paranormal. So so when you get like all the submissions, like, do you have like a team, and what is it that, you know, you're specifically looking for, and like how do you kind of, you know, pick and choose who, or, you know, which stories are going to be published?
So it is a one-woman show. I do everything myself other than designing the cover. That's Emily Wayland from the Singular Fortean Society. She does the cover. She's a magician. She's magical. I don't know how she does it. Everything else is me. So I always tell people, like, please be patient with me. It's just me. I have a child that is now mobile. So it makes it a lot more difficult.
It does.
But basically, as soon as submissions open and people start submitting things, I try to keep up on submissions as best as I can. Because like I said, Volume 1, we got over 100 submissions, and most of them came within like the last 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Wow. It's fine. I did that in college. It's fine. So I try to keep up on it. And really what I'm looking for is a different point of view. You know, a lot of times people will highlight a haunted location and just tell me the ghost stories. Or they'll, you know, just very briefly share a personal experience and not really go into detail, or what could this mean? What are the theories behind why this happened? So I always tell people to really try to come up with something that makes you stand out among the sea of submissions, because we get a lot of submissions, and unfortunately a lot of them sometimes are very similar. And you want to try to have a variety included in this journal. So, you know, I can only put so many personal stories in there. I can only put so many haunted locations in there. So I always tell people, try to don't be broad, be very, very specific. A great example is one individual that they wrote for Volume 1 and Volume 2. In Volume 2, they write about Ouija mania, which was a weird, sensational, I don't want to say epidemic, but in America in the 1920s, women became obsessed with playing with Ouija boards, and because of that, they were locked away in asylums. So it was a very interesting snippet in history. It's very, very specific. Nobody else wrote anything like that. So that's a really good example of the type of thing we're looking for. Another woman, she talks about tarot and reading tarot and kind of her mother's traditions that she instilled into her. And then she offers a tarot spread that you can do at home on your own. You know, really, really interesting things. So like a more hands-on sort of approach to an essay in the Feminine Macabre. So I always tell people, try to be more specific. The more specific, the better. But I read through the submissions. Unfortunately, because it's just me, I don't usually get a chance to respond to people that are, I hate the word rejected, but who we pass on their pieces. So I always tell people, you'll only hear from me if we do want to include you in the Feminine Macabre. And then from there, it's, you know, keeping the conversation going between yourself and the writers, booking different Facebook Live videos where readers can get to know each of the individuals included, editing it over and over and over again, formatting it, trying to make it look exactly like Volume 1. Now we have a Volume 2. So that was really difficult. And then it's just, reading it over and over again to make sure the flow is good. You know, you don't want to have 2 articles about cemeteries right next to each other. So you want to read things. And there's there's a process. It's a very long process. Submissions closed, I believe, in June. And I have been working on this pretty much every nap time
Oh, wow.
Since
You
June
must be
3rd.
exhausted, Amanda.
I cannot wait for this to be released. Can't wait for it to be released. But I think if anyone has already read volume 1, I think you'll really like volume 2. Again, we've opened it up to the artists and the non-binary writers and researchers. We have 40 people included now instead of 30, so it is a little bit thicker. And it's a lot of fun. You know, we have some people that you'll definitely recognize from TV and social media. Some people that were already in volume 1, you might see them again. And then some brand new people that I hope will introduce to you for the very first time.
Wow. Have you had any haunted mirror stories yet?
I have not, which I'm shocked because hello, Courtney. Hello, if you're watching this. Which is interesting because one of my creepiest encounters was with a mirror. I hate mirrors.
Me too.
I hate them with just the deepest passion. I hate them. So whenever people ask me, like, oh, what was your scariest encounter? I'm always like, oh, those stupid mirrors. Like, it was with a mirror. So I'm surprised we haven't had a mirror submission yet. So
it's a good one. It's a good
Courtney
one.
will write about the haunted mirrors and why are mirrors haunted? You know, and join the haunted mirror selfie club hashtag.
Oh my goodness. What was I going to say? I just went blank now.
It was the mirrors. They freaked you out too much.
The mirrors. Oh my gosh, what was I going to say? I just went like blank.
Is there a word limit that you set your submissions for anyone that may be interested?
Yeah, so I usually ask. I'm somewhat loose on this, but I basically say a minimum of 500 words and a maximum of 5,000 words.
Okay.
No one has gotten quite to 5,000 yet. Some people have gotten kind of close where you're like, all right, you're rambling a little bit. We're going to edit this a little bit. But again, I wanted to include like the 500 word level just in case people have never really written before. They're not sure if they can do a whole long essay with citations and all this research. So if they just want to kind of do a little bit of a not a ramble, but a bit of a freestyle of sorts, it's a great opportunity for people to at least try their hand at it. And I always tell people, if you don't get accepted the first time you try, keep trying. You only get better at your writing if you keep practicing. And I always say, like, I want you to be published. I want you to make it into the Feminine Macabre. So, keep trying. If, you picked a topic, every so often I do give feedback where I'm like, hey, somebody already wrote about this. If you want, like, there's still time in the submission window, you can try something else. And people have taken advantage of that. But this was very important for me because I've been a writer since I was about 11 or 12 years old, and my writing has obviously greatly evolved over time. But I remember the very first time one of my pieces got published in an actual physical book, it was a turning point for me. I realized I could do this. I can actually be a writer. And, with all of my books, I've self-published everything. I haven't gone through a traditional publisher. And it's been the best. I mean, we've sold thousands of copies of the Haunted Atlas and the Haunted Breweries book and the Feminine Macabre. And so that was one of the reasons why I wanted, the Feminine Macabre to be an actual physical book. It's not, it's not an ebook. It's not a digital copy. It's an actual physical book. And I wanted that. So the individuals included in the Feminine Macabre could put it on their bookshelf if they want to give it to a family member and say, like, look at this, I'm on page 200.
That's awesome.
And I hope that is the turning point for someone else, to make them realize I can be a writer, I can do this, let's publish. So that's my hope with the Feminine Macabre, is to really inspire people to not just really research the paranormal and the occult and really get into it and explore, but to take those chances on submitting your work, not just to the Feminine Macabre, but to, magazines and journals and other anthologies. You have nothing to lose. And, you know, who knows, you could have a writing career ahead of you if you kind of like take your destiny into your own hands, to sound like a cookie all of a sudden.
I love the, like, you know, having the physical copy though. Like I'm a huge like book lover, and I, you know, recently moved, so I had to pack all my books away.
Yes.
And, you know, my 16-year-old's like, Mum, just get rid of your books. And I'm like, no. How dare you say that? No one touches the books. And, you know, him and his mate were, you know, packing them for me. And I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yes. And he's like, oh, my gosh, Mum, they're books. And I said, okay, no, they're not just books. I don't like bent pages. I don't like marks. I don't know. Like, that is just the OCD thing. Yeah. But I like to look at them as well. And I like to see, like, oh, these are all the books that I've read. And, yeah, so having the physical copy is awesome. Now, you've got Patti Negri in both Volume 1 and 2.
Just Volume 1.
Just Volume 1. Have you met Patti or in person?
No, I have not. When I was searching for a lady to write the foreword for Volume 1, I sent messages to several women that I thought, oh, you know, maybe they'll be interested. Never really heard back from any of them. So I kind of sent like a Hail Mary over to Patti Negri, and I was like, we'll see. You know, she's on TV. She's busy. And I swear to you, within 10 minutes of me sending a message to her, she wrote back right away. And she said, absolutely, this sounds amazing. Let me get it to you. And so she wrote our foreword for us. And I said to her afterwards, like, I appreciate the blind faith that you had in the Feminine Macabre, because there was nothing, like, you didn't know if it was going to be total garbage. You know, you didn't know what it was going to be, but you still saw something special in it enough to take the time to write a foreword for it. So I never met her. I've always enjoyed seeing her. I follow her on social media, and I really like the work that she does as, you know, a psychic and a witch. But now it's like I love her even more because she took the time to work with me, even though I'm a nobody, especially compared to like the people that she actually works with.
No, I disagree. You are not a nobody. I disagree.
But for Volume 2, we actually have Michelle Bellinger, that she's been on Portals to Hell, Paranormal State is what
yes. Wow.
Again, she's one of those people that I don't want to say I'm obsessed with, because I don't want to come off as creepy. But I just
stalk her a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. You know. I really respect her and the work that she does. She's very active over on Twitter. And she just creates a really beautiful environment for people, especially marginalized groups. She really speaks out for us. So again, when I was kind of reaching out, like, all right, well, we got Patti Negri for Volume 1. Like, who can we get for Volume 2? It was the same thing, where as soon as I sent a message, immediately she wrote back, that sounds like fun. Let's do it. And the foreword that she wrote, I want to encourage people, if for nothing else, you know, get Volume 2 for Michelle's foreword, because it is so inspiring. And it's one of the best things I've read in a very long time. And like, I got chills in July, which is not normal, reading this beautiful, beautiful piece that she wrote for us. So I'm so appreciative of both Patti Negri and Michelle Bellinger, again, for kind of taking a chance on, you know, the Feminine Macabre. It's this little independent journal that we've put together over the last, 8 months now, but they're just as passionate about it as we are. So again, I've always been a fan of them from afar, from watching them on television, and now I respect them even more than I thought I could.
Wow, that's awesome. So I'm going to have to backtrack, okay?
Okay.
And ask you, what was your encounter with the mirror?
Okay. So
I have to know, I have to know.
Yeah, because if you hate mirrors, like that's yes. This is the only freaky encounter I've ever had on a paranormal. It wasn't even a paranormal investigation. But there is a place in Buffalo, New York, where I'm from, as well as Courtney. Courtney's also from Buffalo. It's called Iron Island Museum, and it's one of the most haunted places in Western New York. My tape is falling off my face. There we go. I'm keeping my microphone on, but I'm a little dewy. Anyway, Iron Island Museum. It's one of those really famous Buffalo haunts. Portals to Hell was just there recently. Ghost Hunters was there years and years ago. It's a really, really active location. I've been there a bunch of times. But this time in particular was not an investigation. A bit of backstory with me. When I first moved back to America after my brother passed away, my family and I thought it would be a brilliant idea to open up an escape room. Yes. That has since closed down because of COVID, but prior to that, it would be back in 2019, I believe now. I was working with Iron Island to put in a temporary escape room throughout the whole museum for a fundraiser around Halloween time.
Yeah.
And it was opening day, and I was really pressed for time to try to finish all of the props and everything. So Linda, the woman that owns Iron Island, she said, I have to drop my mom off. What are we going to do? And so I asked her, is it okay if I just stay here to keep working on these things, because you have someone coming in 4 hours to go through the escape room and it's not done. So she said, well, I'm going to have to lock you in. Are you okay with that? And I was like, yeah, sure, it's fine. And she goes, are you sure? And I finally look at her and I say, like, should I not be? Like, should I be afraid? And she goes, no, I'm sure you'll be fine. And, and she leaves. And I'm just like, oh, gosh. So I'm working in a room called the Chapel. So it has a big altar from a church that burnt down several years ago. It's got a piano.
Wow.
But in like the back room area is a giant ladder leading up to the attic where like one of the spirits is said to haunt. And I'm really focused on what I'm working on, the prop that I'm trying to finish. And across from this room out in the hallway is this huge circular mirror. And like I said, I've been here before. I mean, I've always hated the mirror because it's so freaking big and you can see the whole room in it. But I was, working on my prop. And as I looked up in this mirror, I saw in broad daylight, it was basically a shadowy figure. I won't say a shadow person because I think that might be something different, but it was a shadowy figure from the waist up. And it looked like it was dripping out of the mirror.
What?
I wish I could say like I was a brave ghost hunter and I investigated. Oh no. I like gathered my stuff and I just like really briskly like scampered out of there. And I'm embarrassed to say this because I do paranormal investigations. I'm more so a paranormal researcher than an investigator, but I go on investigations. I do them.
Hey, men run too.
I'd like to think it's because I was alone and that if someone else had been there, I would have been maybe a little bit braver.
Yeah.
But so I ended up like finishing my work in the safe area, which is kind of like the kitchen dining area that they have there. And I didn't go back in there until Linda came back to unlock the door and let me out.
Oh my goodness.
But so that is like my creepiest encounter. I really hate mirrors now. But I've been back at Iron Island since. I've been back by myself and I've never seen anything like it again. I never want to.
All I keep thinking about, all I keep seeing in my head is the Ring. How like she kind of starts like moving out of the mirror.
Yep.
That's the first thing I thought of when you said like it was
the mirror. Yeah, same. Like
so like drip. Was it like dripping like from the bottom, or like was it kind of halfway up?
It was basically like the mirror itself was normal, and then like the waist up was in the mirror, and then it looked like like tar. It was very like
oh my gosh.
gelatinous. It was awful. It was awful.
That's
and
nasty.
like I
I don't blame you for getting out of there.
and it was the sort of thing where like I saw it, I kind of did like that, and as you blinked your eyes, it was gone. But it was like, nope, that's emblazoned in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
God.
So that was I mean, I know that Courtney loves taking her haunted mirror selfies, but I don't do mirrors. No, thank you.
Yeah, well, a place that I took Jane to when she was staying with me here was Green Hills Inn, and it's an inn from back, built in the mid 1800s, and it's absolutely beautiful. I love going there. I love investigating there. I love staying there. The atmosphere, the whole thing. But there's like those big antique mirrors everywhere, and I cannot look into any of them. Like there's a huge big one on the landing of, as you're going down the stairs, and my eyes just go straight to my feet, and I'm just like walking around. But and there's in one of the rooms, like there's a mirror that's very similar to the one that I had, so I'm just like, no. And they're beautiful, don't get me wrong, but oh no.
Yep.
I mean, I once had someone ask me on a podcast, they were like, so like, do you think you've got like any PTSD from, like what happened? And at the time I didn't really like think so. No, like I was like, no, I'm not. Yeah, I don't think so. But I guess that is a form of PTSD. Yeah. The fact that I can't look into an antique mirror or any kind of mirror that's got that filigree type, bordering. Like even if it's a brand new freaking made mirror, but they'll put, that kind of bordering on it to make it look old. No. I'm
good, thank you.
Oh my goodness. So what's probably like the most like active or like creepiest place that you have investigated?
So the most active place I've been to is the theater that I actually published the book on, the Ghostlight Theater. It's in Buffalo, New York, and like I mentioned earlier, I was a member. I am a member. I'm still a member. I've been a member since 2006, so it's been a couple years now. I feel so old. But so I mean, all good theaters have ghost stories, and it's where I really started having a lot of paranormal encounters, even before my brother passed away. Just fingers going through your hair, someone tugging on your costume. We got photographs during a live performance of like a full body apparition. Oh, it's amazing.
Oh, far out.
People have seen things, people have heard their names called, different things like that. It's a very, very active location. Part of me feels like I feel like it's so active personally because I've spent so much time there. So just statistically speaking, I'll have the most encounters there. But
and they become like familiar with you, so they're more willing to communicate with you.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting because my brother was also a very active member at this theater, and after he passed away, people started seeing him. We got photographs of him. I actually got an EVP of his voice.
Oh my gosh, Amanda.
Absolutely amazing. I've seen him with my own two eyes. Interestingly, in 2017, so 2 years
I'm
after,
getting chills.
It's amazing. Like 2 years after he passed away, we did a ghost hunt just with members of the theater company. And I was thinking to myself while I was doing an EVP session down in the basement, I was down there with two other women, and we all kind of scattered like roaches and went our separate ways. And during my EVP session, it was just put on my heart very briefly to I just needed to know that he was okay. And it's one of my rules to, I don't reach out to him. I don't reach out to people that I know because it's a slippery slope. You don't know who exactly you're talking to. Yeah. It's not worth the trouble. But for whatever reason, it was just put on my heart in that single moment. So I said, you know what, dude, are you okay? I just need to know that you're okay. And I didn't realize it at the time, but we got an EVP of his voice from when he was about 11 years old. So he passed when he was 19, but the height of his like career at this theater, he was 11. And we got an EVP of his voice when he was about 11 years old saying, I'm fine. And that exact same night, in the exact same spot, one of my friends who was down in the basement with me, on her cell phone, she got a photograph of my brother when he was 11 years old. It is a carbon copy of our family. Like, we have a family photo of him on like
covered in chills right now.
It was amazing. It's like
I'm sorry. That's just so much. When it comes to paranormal experiences in children, I get super emotional. Yeah, they just tend to connect with me quite strongly. And it was
this thing where incredible. After he passed away, I struggled very, very much so, and especially with my faith and what I believed, what could possibly come next. It was everything I believed in was absolutely shattered. So and that was all that I needed, just the EVP or just the photo. But we got both of them the exact same night in the exact same place. So it was just, I always said that if I never saw anything ever again or experienced anything ever again, I'm okay with that, because I got exactly what I needed. To be able to start healing.
I'm sorry. It's just beautiful. Like, I know it's kind of like I'm happy, like that. It's happy and sad at the same time. I'm sorry. It's just, like I said, when it comes to paranormal experiences, especially when there's younger people involved, it gets me really emotional. It always does. If you've watched some of my my episodes, you probably understand. Children are often drawn to me in spirit. So I'm wondering if I'm picking up on some of his energy right now. So
and it must have been quite emotional for you too, Amanda. Like,
I mean, when we didn't know we got the EVP that night, but just seeing the photograph, I carry that photo with me on my phone whenever I'm talking to someone. I work a lot with pediatric cancer families, especially bereaved siblings. And if we're ever talking about the afterlife and like what we think is coming next, or what is there, I show them this photo and I say, like, that's Jed. You can see his long shaggy hair. You can see his jawline. You can see that he's wearing a green t-shirt. You can see that he has a backpack on. It's the weirdest thing, but also the most comforting thing. That's why I got into the paranormal, was to kind of let other people kind of come to their conclusions and see, there is something waiting for us, and it's closer than we realize.
Absolutely.
Wow, that is incredible.
Don't apologize. It's just incredible and just beautiful at the same time. And I'm so happy you got to experience all that such a wonderful thing, especially for, like you said, part of that healing process for you. I think that's why it's part of it. I'm like,
oh my goodness. All right. Well, on that note, you okay, Janie?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm okay.
I'll open the chat up to any questions that you guys might have for Amanda. I'm just going through. I did see someone post a couple. So if anyone in the chat has any questions here we go, from Melissa, for Amanda, just pop it in there. Okay. Would y'all know anything about how one would find out who they were in their past life? I've recently been very curious about mine.
Ooh. I feel like this is a whole other conversation for a whole lot of alcohol.
It's too early for alcohol here.
Yes. It's 9 o'clock at night. 9 o'clock. This is just water, though. So,
Electric did mention a little bit to her in the chat there, as well as myself, on some ideas that she may be able to spark interest, such as meditation and tarot and numerology could offer some insight as well into that realm of things if you're interested. So.
And don't quite a few people do regressive hypnotherapy as well, like past life regression.
It's the same thing. Going into hypnosis, putting yourself into self meditation is a type of self hypnosis. So you can do it yourself, but obviously you have to be. There's plenty of guided meditations for that type of thing on YouTube, but it took me a long while of meditating and getting used to meditation before I started, inducing that past life regression. Come on accidentally one day, and but there is plenty of guided meditations out there that can help put you through the processes. Probably as well as people who explain the process, the people that that are mediums or spiritual counselors who do the guided past life regression process as part of their their everyday business. And they have videos about the whole process and what's involved, because past life regression can involve bringing up a lot of past life karma and trauma, and some people are not prepared to face that type of thing. So that's something which I also mentioned in the chat. Amber, thank you to Amber for mentioning that. That's something you've got to be prepared for as well. So
okay, I think electric. Do you happen to know Robin Felix Eddy? She's originally from Buffalo and is an amazing artist.
I do not. Sorry to disappoint.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the whole Ouija board thing. What are your thoughts on? Have you ever done a Ouija board session?
No, I have not.
Okay, me neither.
I it's so funny because I am a 50-50 split. I am so conflicted when it comes to Ouija boards. I think they're absolutely beautiful. My very first book, The Haunted Atlas of Western New York, the cover is inspired by an old Ouija board. I think they're gorgeous. I feel like my intellectual, logical side of my brain says it's just a toy. We know scientifically how these are manipulated and they work. But then my superstitious side is also but do you want to chance anything? I'm starting to come more to the idea that it is just a form of spirit communication, just like how we use spirit boxes for Estes methods or a pendulum or even tarot cards. It's just another way to communicate with spirit instead of, using word programs like an Ovulus or even EVP. Instead of using words and audio, you have letters drawn out. However, Mr. SpookEats has very specifically requested that I never chance anything. So out of respect and love for my husband, I will never dabble. I will never try it, just out of respect. But I think they're absolutely beautiful. I love them. But I will love them from afar.
Yeah.
See, my I would never touch one. But my issue is that they sell them as kids' toys. What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously there's a way to play, and there are children out there, and there are a lot of adults out there too who don't know how to use them properly, and who might even be skeptics and just think that nothing's going to hurt me, and they might just invite Mr. Demon into the house and not realize. So what are your thoughts on with the aging of how they market it? Yeah.
It's still crazy. For me, it's still that 50-50 split again. I feel like in a way it is kind of it can just be a game. I think a lot of it has to do with intention. So if you're intent on just kind of scaring each other and playing it as a game, then it's just a game. But if you're actually using it intentionally for spirit communication, then there's something more to it. One of the pieces in the Feminine Macabre actually talks about the use of Ouija board, and it's the Ouija Mania essay I mentioned earlier, where a quote from someone in a newspaper says, people are buying Ouija boards to do research. well, people, they want to do research on Ouija boards. Well, people also wanted to do research on radium. But radium is very expensive and is difficult for your average everyday person to access, which is a good thing because it's dangerous and you shouldn't play with it. Whereas Ouija boards are very affordable. Everyone can buy a Ouija board, and they could potentially be dangerous, but now everyone can have one because they're so cheap. So it was a really interesting comparison. Again, it's a horrible answer, but I'm kind of split. I think if you're there to play it as a game, it's just a game. But if you're there to communicate with something that might be present, then you might want to, kind of follow the rules and set those parameters and kind of set up those boundaries and protection. But I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe the age could be tweaked a little bit. Just a little. On a Ouija board. Just a little. But hopefully mom and dad know what board games are in their house, and hopefully it's not a talking board.
I think for us in Australia, they're not for sale on shelves. Like, you would have to go to a pop culture website, or you have to go to a more gothic website. You do have to go searching. They're not, you can't just walk into, well, there's no Toys R Us anymore, but say you couldn't just walk into Toys R Us here in Australia or Toy World and go, give me one of your Ouija boards.
And when Toys R Us was here in the States, you 100% could walk in and there's a Ouija board.
You may have back in the 70s in Australia, but for a very long time, they have not been available on our shelves per se. Like, if you go to a convention or somewhere that sells specific like pop culture items and that type of thing, you may find one, but you really do need to go looking for them, like here in Australia. So that for us, it's kind of like, it blows my mind that you could just walk into a Kmart over there to the toy section and go, here's my $20. Thank you very much. And I've got my folded cardboard, talking board and my planchette, and away we go. And anyone 8 years ago, we can get one. It's like, are you serious? Like,
I know, it's just insane. It's insane. Hang on, what does Alexi said? I've always had something negative happen within a couple of days of using a Ouija board, even being protected. So she hasn't touched one in 20 years. Wow.
No, I never had good experiences. I've got one hanging there, but that's the same. I think they're
I have like my mint container.
Exactly. For me, they are gorgeous, and they do stem from that spiritualist tradition, like you were talking about back in the 20s, and that when the spiritualist churches started becoming a thing, and the table tipping and scrying and all those, and the crystal balls and fortune telling and tarot was becoming quite big, and I'm very much about that history side of things, but they are beautiful, and I would collect them if I had the money just to throw at it. This wall would be an array of vintage Ouija boards if I had my way. Rather than just
I could see that, Jane. I could definitely see it.
One day when I have my own place, that will be a goal, 100%. But I've had nothing but negative, and I brought a very trickster, malevolent spirit once when I was in my late teens, and I had to send it back from whence it came. But I'm lucky. Like I always tell everyone, I'm lucky I have the ability to do that. Not everyone does, so you do have to certainly be careful.
Yeah. Amber's Paranormal says, I was 9 when I first used one. It was very active, but also I've known people who have used them and never had any experiences. So, I've heard that, when you're using a Ouija board, that it's kind of half the person, say if it's just you. So it's half your energy on the planchette and half the spirit's energy that moves the planchette. It's not just spirit. Is that kind of how it works, or is it just spirit that moves it around? Jane, do you know?
I don't know the specific science. I think what it is your. It's not so much the board that's channeling the energy. I think it's kind of like it sort of works in the same way as tarot. Like you become the conduit between the spirit and the device. So it's kind of that mixture of energy. So, the cards are there. So it's kind of a mixture of like a circuitry almost, for lack of better terms. Like, you know, tarot, when you're reading tarot, say, you know, I'm asking my guides, helpers, protectors, whoever, to help me, you know, bring clarity or guidance, and I allow the cards to tell the story, and then I am the conduit who interprets those cards. So I'm guessing by having your hands on that planchette, you know, you're using your energy with the board, and then spirits coming through that board, and then it's kind of works like a bit of a circuit, I think, like a three-way sort of circuitry board. So, you know, whether it's spirit drawing through you into the board, or whether it's spirit going through the planchette into you, I think it could work in maybe reverse cycle. I haven't really thought too much about the science of it, but there would definitely, you know, as energy is fluid and moves through all things, I think that's some way that would work that way. Obviously, you know, if you're doing it properly and you're not trying to manipulate the little planchette, and you know,
I mean, like I would never like use one anyway, but you know, like as an investigative tool, I guess like dowsing rods, because they're so easily manipulated by you know, the person using it. And I mean, I've tried debunking dowsing rods, like on a live with Jane, you know, and she's been right next to me, but you know, like I was shocked when, because I tend to bring home a lot of ghosty boyfriends from the places I visit, and I was quite shocked at how weird of a sensation it was when the rods moved, and you can feel
like
the energy.
Bug antennas, like
And Jane, like, you know, like had a similar experience, you know, when they were moving for her. But I also showed people, you know, like I made the slightest little movement in my hand, and I bought the ones that don't have the spinning handles, so it's just like the copper that you're holding, and I just moved my hand just the slightest little amount, so one of the rods went across, right? No one noticed. So when I said, oh my gosh, did you guys see that? And they were like, fire out. And I'm like, did you see me move it though? And they're like, hang on, wait, what? And I said, exactly, like that is how easy, you know, like I don't have to like move my hands per se. It's just I could tighten my hand the slightest to make them move. So, you know, sure, to like have fun and play around with and find some water. But
I mean, a good divination tool, just like
for sure,
you know, or like say a pendulum at home. But as far as like an investigative tool out in the field, probably not so much. Because they can be manipulated. So that, you know, if you're trying to do something for YouTube, you know, people would be like, oh, you know, how do we know you're not doing it? It's too questionable.
What would be your favorite like ghost hunting equipment? That, like, what would be your go-to, Amanda?
Oh gosh, I tend to be very lucky with EVP. I've never captured anything on camera or in photographs. I'm not lucky in that sense at all. And I love doing EVP sessions. I love listening back on EVP sessions. And I tend to get some very good results. So I would say either a digital record, just a good old-fashioned digital recorder, or I've become kind of a fan of the Estes method with the spirit boxes and the you know, the blindfold and the headphones.
That's me and Jane.
I really that's funny. But I really like that, because like what we were saying just now about like the Ouija boards and the dowsing rods, it's so easy to manipulate, even if you don't realize you're doing it. You know, I host public ghost hunts at the Ghostlight Theater, and we incorporate dowsing rods because people like hands-on equipment. So we got a bunch of dowsing rods. You get one, you get one, you get one. And but it's so easy. You're asking questions and the person can hear the questions. So even if they realize they're doing it or not, a lot of times they are adjusting their hands to try to encourage the rods to move. So you get false results.
Exactly.
What I love about the Estes method is that the person who's listening for answers cannot hear the question. So it's much less likely for, you know, things to be fabricated or even, you know, elaborated on. So I really like that because it just seems it's more interesting. Where if you do get an intelligent response that kind of keeps going, it makes you stop and take pause. So I do like that. So either a digital recorder or my little spirit box with the headphones and the blindfold. Cheating answer.
Jen and I absolutely love doing it. Like, you know, we would just, you know, because it would just be the two of us. So we just both like go in and just do a double, and we would just say whatever came out. And when we listen back to it, like, you know, at times we're having a full-blown conversation with each other. And
you're like, what am I saying? It doesn't make any sense, but you listen back and you're like, it was amazing.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I've got to, I keep meaning to, you know, order a splitter cable so that I can like record, you know, what's coming through on Spirit Box. So then, you know, I could insert like that audio for, you know, my viewers to hear that this is what I'm hearing, so this is what I'm saying. So no, that's amazing. So does anyone else have any questions for Amanda? Amber, my experience with rods are that one has to form a bond with them, just like cards and pendulums. My rods wouldn't work at all for anyone else. Oh, well that's quite interesting. I suppose like if like your energy is, you know, intertwined with them, then wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, Amanda, Jane, do you have any more questions for Amanda?
I think she's answered anything I wanted to know, so it's been great.
I already made her cry once.
No more crying. Well, do you want to hold up your volume 2 again and just show everybody, because it's just beautiful. I absolutely love the cover.
Yes. So hopefully available by the end of August. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Yep. So everyone keep an eye out for that.
I cannot wait to get my copy. Can't wait. All right, Amanda. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
No worry, absolute pleasure having you and learning more about your story. It's been chilling to say the least.
No, but thank you so much. I was glad we could make this work.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And everyone in the chat, if you are not already following Amanda on IG or Facebook, are you on Twitter as well?
I am on Twitter and TikTok.
Oh, and TikTok. And is it all at SpookEats?
Yep, nice and easy.
And also, Amanda has just started a specific IG page for the feminine. Is it macabre or macabre?
So I've learned that the difference
macabre.
is between American English and British English, I feel like, because I have friends over in the UK that they say macabre also, and I was like, well, I'm not going to correct them because it's English and they're from England. So I say macabre, but macabre works too.
Okay.
I think in Australia we pronounce it macabre, so as well.
Yeah.
Say macabre rather than macabre. I was only saying macabre because
Courtney
was saying that. So I was like, am I saying it wrong? Like,
me too.
Maybe I'm saying it wrong. I don't know.
We'll say macabre over here, so we'll just roll with
yes.
that.
Yes.
We'll just roll with the macabre. It sounds more posh and elegant, like macabre. All right, thank you everyone who joined us for today. And yes, next week we will be getting the Ghost Girls on, Grace and Vivi. So yes, looking forward to that one as well. It should be interesting. So, and yes, thank you again, Amanda. It's been an honor speaking to you today, actually.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.